Please take a look at this statement. Have that in your minds as we go through the next, hopefully, half an hour. I'll make it as short as possible. I'm Nigel Pegram. I'm the Business Process Manager at Lynton Lasers and also the ERP lead. We went live with Priority in January of this year, so just 10 months in. So very fresh. It's all very fresh to us. And I've been asked just to share with you some of our experiences in the phase between selection, searching for a particular system, committing to, deciding what we were going to go to, and then to the go live. And we're going to learn more about post go live later from Aline, I think. Yeah. I know that quite a few of you are long-established users of Priority. There's going to be people who are, I know there are people who are more recent users, and some people who are still on the cusp, really, of making a decision and going live. So wherever you are on that ERP journey, there you go, I use the J word. That's it now, I won't use that again. I hope you find it interesting and valuable. Okay. Just to give you some context, I just want to talk a little bit about Lynton Lasers. We came out of Manchester University in 1995. We're a technical startup business, like a lot of startups coming out of universities. So I've been around for 30 years. We make medical grade lasers. These aren't lasers. I was having a conversation with someone before about cutting steel with lasers like industrial lasers. These are not industrial lasers. These are lasers that are used on people, and I'll explain a little bit more about that shortly. We have a turnover of around about 11 million, and we have 75 staff, and we typically have about 55 people on Priority at any one time. So that will give you an idea of the size of the business and our engagement with the system. So our lasers are used in a range of applications and uses. So aesthetics industry lasers, so these would be devices, medical devices used to treat skin conditions like rosacea, for healing or treating scar tissue, hair removal, removing that awkward tattoo that you got done that wild night out in Benidorm that you now regret. Those kind of applications in clinics, typically. Surgical lasers, so these are used in ear, nose and throat surgery, gynecological surgery, those kind of applications. And this is the typical thing you see, when there's something about the NHS and in the news, and they have the montage of pictures in the background. You see a surgeon here, in this case, looking at using a camera, fiber optic camera, and manipulating the laser either by hand or robotically with the joysticks that you see. And also, these lasers are used in conservation work. So typically in museums around the world. This particular artifact here comes from the Copenhagen Museum. It's something that has been cleaned with a laser. It's a granite relief. Dates to or from 1750 BC. It's a pharaoh, I can't remember the name, to be honest, but it's that kind of age, definitely an ancient artifact, where you wouldn't want to use abrasives or chemicals to clean it because it would damage the artifact. Okay? I say we manufacture, but really, we do many other things. We distribute a range of devices from other manufacturers from around the world, so we import those and sell them into our market and export them as well. And we support our customers through installation and servicing for all the devices that we put on the market. We also provide consumables and spares. These devices can last 10, 15 years. So if people want to get them repaired. Some devices need consumables to actually operate. Every time you use them, you have to change something. And we also supply devices for applications that need people to be trained, accredited training, so that they're safe to use the devices. So we provide clinical training courses as well. So it isn't just manufacture. it's distribution, it's parts, it's training, a whole range for a relatively small business of different business applications and sectors. So we needed a system that would handle all of that. Just have a look at these numbers and have a think about what they might be. Put it out your misery, I won't ask you to guess. The first one is the number of results you'll get when you type ERP systems into Google. I think it tops out at about 1 million. I'm sure there's many more than 1 million in the whole world. And that word about is from the results. The second one is if you say, that's no good, I want to search for UK ERP suppliers in Google, that's what you get, 400,000. So when you're looking for a system, not very helpful. The third one is if you type how many UK suppliers of ERP systems are there in the UK into AI, into Google AI, talked about AI before. And it will say some words, and in those words are the words hundreds. And that's true. There are hundreds of available systems, for manufacturing, distribution, healthcare, retail, those kind of industries, wide range of industries. But the truth is, for your own businesses, whatever sector you're in, there are going to be dozens of potential systems that may work for you. So how do you choose? The first thing I'd suggest is that you get help from experts. There are businesses and consultancies out there whose job it is to keep on top of ERP developments, the current state of art with the ERP systems, and also there are specialists in your particular industries as well. So what did we do? We engaged a consultant. We verified that they had experience in our industry. We asked for references. We were particularly keen that they dealt with medical device companies because it's a highly regulated sector, as you can imagine, people safety, etc. And that was 2.5 years ago when we started this process, so it gives you an idea of the timescale. They came in and worked with people in the business, sat down for a period of days, talked to users, people using the system at the coalface, as well as directors and managers, about what was to define our current state of play. Where were we? And with their knowledge of what was available in ERP systems, they said this is where you could go. This is the future state that you could get to. It's kind of like a gap analysis, I think we use would use that phrase. And they came up with a document called a Statement of Requirements. And it was a very wordy document with our specific requirements in there, a document that could be sent out to vendors. Ian will remember this. With a lot of questions in there. Okay. And the vendors sent that out to they'd started with about 13 vendors. They said these 13 vendors, these 13 systems we believe could work for you. And they did a first pass. Got some responses. They reviewed the submissions, refined that list down to 7. We went out again with more detailed questions. Came back and got it down to 3. They then organised, technical problem, probably me actually, rather than a technical problem, there we go. They ran, and organised and ran, full-day demonstrations, and again, Ian, remember this, and Phil, with the final 3, if you like, candidates, where we had the opportunity to see the software in action, ask questions, more detailed, specific questions, attended by key directors and managers in the business, to challenge and to see if we could get more feedback. And we scored them. We had score sheets that were developed with the consultants, and we scored them, and they gave us feedback. So we ended with 1, and we chose Medatech as a vendor and Priority as an ERP system. Did we make the right choice? Yeah, we did. Definitely did. Despite everything, we definitely did. Okay. So, lesson number 1, get expert help. Okay. So we decide where we're going. We tell everybody in the business. Everybody's going, fantastic, hooray, we're going into the sunny uplands of ERP world. From a business, actually, that didn't have an ERP system. Maybe that's important for you to understand. And everyone's going to be delighted, of course. This is what you hope the reaction will be. In reality, for a lot of people, it's more like this. Let me ask you a question. Hands up in the room, please. Anyone who's been skydiving? Ooh. 3, 4. Not many. How about bungee jumping? 1, 2, 3. No, I don't think it's the same people, but there's so we've got maybe half a dozen people in this room. Yeah? Small percentage. By the way, for everyone else who's in this room, they are the brave people, okay? They're the risk takers. Have you heard about this phrase, comfort zone? We have, it's well understood that we as human beings have a comfort zone. And that comfort zone is where we feel safe and secure in our lives in general, and particularly in a business, in a work environment, I should say. And that's where we know what's going to happen broadly. We're hardwired as human beings to be in a comfort zone and to be happy in a comfort zone. Yes, there are risks around the outside, but they're generally things we've seen before on a day-to-day basis. Things will happen, you know roughly how you're going to deal with it. Has anybody here looked at organizational behavior, psychology, those kind of things? If you have, you might have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Some nodding heads. For those that don't know, Maslow was a psychiatrist in the 1940s, I think. He came up with a theory of human behavior. And if you can imagine a sort of triangle, pyramid shape. And at the bottom, his theory said at the bottom of that triangle we have the basics. So food, shelter, warmth. Next level up, we have security, belonging. And it gets more sophisticated as you get to the top, and at the top, right at the top, is personal self-actualization, the zenith, the thing we want to get to. That's what drives people. This bit at the bottom is the comfort zone. And as soon as you move someone out of the comfort zone, some people at least find that very, very disconcerting. It worries them. They're frightened. Because it's change. Change can be very, very scary. It's important that we understand this. So what did we do? We announced what we were going to do very, very early on, before we even got a consultant in. We said to people, this is our intention, in general terms. This is what we want to do. And importantly, this is why we want to do it. And we talked about the shortcomings and the daily challenges people faced, and people recognize this. They know when things aren't quite right. And that we were growing and we had to look to change. And then we told them how. Not a detailed plan, but a broad, blocky sort of time-scaled plan. We were going to bring a consultant in, we were going to then look over this period, we were going to make a decision, we were going to do the workshops, etc., etc. So people knew broadly what was happening. And then we talked to people regularly about it. It's very important that we do that. And that was management meetings, team meetings, shop floor meetings. Some people are familiar with that phrase. And we still do have a regular monthly update on the company, which is a Teams meeting. A lot of our people are off-site. We have salespeople, field service engineers. A lot of people can't attend. In fact, pre-COVID, thinking about it, was basically an office-based meeting, and a lot of people didn't even attend it. Now it's a Teams meeting, so an awful lot more people attend it virtually, which is great. So we talk about how's the company performing, any new people that have joined the business, new products, any challenges, quality issues, health and safety, ERP, where we were going with that. And we wove it into the narrative. It became part and parcel of just an update. We normalized it, effectively, as we talked it through. And we kept talking to people, and still do, by the way, even though we're live, we still talk about this fairly regularly, as my colleagues can attest, yeah? And then we listened to feedback. Particularly asked managers to listen to feedback, because those people, and there were, who were genuinely worried and scared, what's going to happen? How's this going to affect me? We needed to listen to them and understand them, take them to one side, have a chat, try and reassure them, work with them. And then we involved everybody in the process. So lesson 2, prepare your people, prepare them really well. The cliche that we all say, that you heard said many times, that people are the most important thing in a business. It's a cliche because cliches are generally true, and this is true. They are the most important thing in a business. Without them, you do whatever you want technically. It won't work, okay? So moving on, anything that's going to last has to have a strong foundation, a really solid structure. Think about skyscrapers, think about bridges, think about your homes. They have to have a solid structure in order to last. And it's no different in business. You have to really build something strong and solid for it to work. And that's true of your ERP project delivery as well. So the first thing we had to do, and someone mentioned this earlier, it was quite interesting, is get board approval. Shareholders of a business will want to know why we want to spend what is a relatively expensive, high cost, high amount of money on an ERP system. We've operated like this for 30 years effectively. Why have we got to do this now? What are we going to get out of it? And it's really hard. Having done it, it's really, really hard because it's very difficult to pin down actual solid numbers, but there's a lot of information around commonly accepted statistics of how you can measure efficiency gains. You can look at things like predicted cash management savings in reducing stock levels, things of that nature. So you have to put a return on investment argument has to be made, and you have to put that forward, and it has to be accepted. If you've got everybody on the board behind it, that's fantastic. If you haven't, keep working, because you have to. You have to. Once you've achieved that, you can then get management team buy-in. Now, managers in any business are the people who actually take what the board or the directors have decided is the strategy and make it real. Through their people, through their teams, they actualize the future direction of where we want to get to. They are absolutely key. So, again, they need to be on board. You need an executive sponsor. The higher up in the organization, the better. That person is going to be responsible for reporting back to the board on progress. Sort of the big picture. In our case, it's our managing director, so that's fantastic. Have a project lead, dedicated project lead. This isn't always possible. Depending on the size of the company, the complexity of the company, it's really quite difficult, I think, for a lot of businesses. We have a project lead, it's me. Not because I'm any good, just because I was kind of available. No, it wasn't. But it needs somebody who's going to look after it on a day-to-day basis, who's going to make sure that things are happening inside the business that need to happen as you go through this process. Because the executive sponsor can't do that. They're busy running the business. Some companies would use a consultant, bring a consultant in on a contract basis. It's okay, it can work. The only thing I would say there, and no disrespect to any consultants in the room, I say this with all sincerity and good intent, is that a consultant isn't an employee. They're not part of your business, and they're going to be there for a certain amount of time. Of course, they want things to work when they've gone, and they'll do their best, I'm sure. But there's a question mark there about their engagement with the business and their investment in the business, because they're not working within it. Then there's a hybrid model where you've got the consultant and maybe 1 or 2 part-time people. If you try, though, and bring an ERP project to fruition with a part-time person, it will not work. Think about that stat. And then super users. For every department, you ideally need a super user, someone who knows Priority has been in their area, has been trained well, who can train others, and then be a source of advice and help as you go through the process. Confession here, we didn't do this particularly well. For all sorts of reasons. And it did create some issues, but we've recognised that 10 months in, and we're just about to bring into play people in the organisation who are going to be process leads. We're going to call them priority leads, but I think to understand about Priority, it's just a tool, it's just software like any software. That's the tool you use. So your processes around it that have also got to be right. So we're going to bring process leads into play so they can help here. If we had the time again, we'd probably do the super user a bit better. Okay. So, lesson 3. Have a really, really solid structure and a team that can deliver the project. Everybody on board, okay? A bit of background, where we were in December of last year. Seems like a long time ago now. So this is Exchequer. It's a finance, and Duncan will recognise this. Spoke to him last night about this. He said, we used Exchequer. So this is kind of very MS-DOSy, Windows, I don't know, 98 kind of looking. This is actually how it looks today. This was a finance package and stock control package. We'd had it for 20 years. It was kept up to date broadly, but that's where we manage those kind of processes. And then completely disconnected from that is a CRM package that we had, which is Dynamics 365, Microsoft product. And in there, that was kind of like a little bit of marketing, sales leads, sales ops, that kind of thing. Not sales orders, because it doesn't do sales orders. Well, it does, but we didn't do that. Sales orders were done in Exchequer, so completely disconnected again. And then we had a plethora, is that the right word, of spreadsheets. When we did the discovery sessions with the consultant, he said that we had around about 60 spreadsheets squirreled away around the business, some of which are still being used. We're trying to wrestle it away from people, many of which had critical data on them, business-sensitive data. I'm sure this is ringing bells with quite a few of you, hopefully. And then, of course, we have the expert. This is the person in your organisation, and you'll know who they are, who know things that happened. They know things. So you have a customer problem. You don't know what to do about it, so you find the person. You go, do you remember we had this problem? Did we ever have this problem, and how did we get around the problem? And they have a think, and they scratch the inside of their heads, and they go, 12 years ago, I remember it now, this was the problem, and we did this to fix it. We've all got those, but that information, again, key information is in people. But the good news is, it all worked perfectly fine. Except it didn't. When you get to a certain size, these things creak, start to break. What you do, and again, hopefully this will ring some bells, is you create all sorts of workarounds. You put processes in place, fixes, to join the things together because they don't work together properly. The good old days of emails, tsunamis of emails on a daily basis, telling people what to do. And then something doesn't happen, and you go to the person who was supposed to do something, and they check their emails, because they never read that email, and they say, but you put me in the CC column in the email. If it's in the to column, I read it and do it, but if it's in the CC column, that's your fault, because I haven't got time to read those, I just file them away. Ring a bell? So it's very, very inefficient. And it's not scalable. This is the key thing. You can't future-proof your business with this. A great reason for change, yeah? And some businesses try and carry on like this, and they destroy themselves. businesses will go out of business because they can't operate this way. Okay, so how do we deal with this? We found out where our key data was. We said, this is what we need to capture in all these different places, including all the squirreled away spreadsheets. We wrestled them from people. We decided what we want to keep and decided to throw away all the other rubbish. You can't keep everything. You have to make a decision, or you get data overload. Gidon, thank you for teaching me about this. I never thought about stuff like this until Gidon, who was our project manager, taught me this very, very simple and obvious thing. 2 types of data, basically. Static data is your customer account, addresses, contact information, emails, phone numbers, bills of materials. Talked about that earlier on. Bills of materials, part numbers, payment terms, those kind of things. Live data is basically all your transactional stuff. These are all your orders, your POs, your sales orders, invoices, those kind of things. You'll have people in your organization who say, we need to bring everything over. I want to be able to live in ERP land and look backwards several years so I can use all the fancy reporting. Resist it. Do not do it. There lie dragons. Do not go there. You haven't got the bandwidth and the time to think about this. There are simple solutions staring you in the face. We have old systems. Reduce the number of licenses, make them read-only. I need to check something. Go and have a look. And it'll be interesting at the end of the year, because we'll have had 1 year then. I'm going to look back and see how often people went into these old systems to find data. I think that will tell us a lot. So only bring over your static data. Consider your legal duties. Very important. We import and export a lot of equipment. If we get audited by HMRC, we need to provide records, obviously. And we need to make sure if you're closing down old systems that you've captured that. So we took a load of data out of those systems, PDF'd it basically, filed it away, so we can see it. But you need to do those things. These are things that when you think about an ERP system, you don't think about the stuff you have to bring over somewhere else, which is important. I think, any accountants in the room? 7 years, is it? 7 years of data? Yeah. Okay, so a lot of work needs to be doing there, but think about those things. And then clean it. Check it, clean it again. Check it, clean it again. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. PDCA, again, maybe some quality people in the room, that's plan, do, check, act. So you plan to do something, you do it, you check the results, you act on it to change what you did. You plan to do it again, you go round and round in a kind of virtuous circle, and you get that data cleansing to as near to 100% as you can. Do not go for 100%, it's a waste of time. High 90s is fine. Worst case, something's not there. Create it. We didn't bring that customer across. We've got an order. We can't place the order. Well, create the account then. Simple. Okay. So prepare your data. Key. Number 4. And then the final thing to talk about is you'll have a plan, or rather, I should say, Medatech, in this case, will have a plan. I've seen it. It's a very, very detailed plan with various steps that have to be signed off, ticked, things that have to be done to get from the project start to the go live. Well, actually, not the go live, the handover. There's a point where we agree that everything's been done, we can now hand it over, and the project manager at Medatech will go, there you are, service help desk issue now, off you go. It's really, really detailed plan. But that's not your plan. Their plan will tell you nothing, really, about what you've got to do internally. So you have to create your own plan. That plan has got to mirror the vendor plan. I'm keeping it vendor because it's a general thing, but a Medatech's plan in this case. There are key stages in those plans that have to match. You can't advance one plan without getting to a certain point with your plan, and vice versa. They have to work in harmony, go forward together. It's very important in your plan that you say what you have to do, by when, Who's going to do it? And then critically, how are you going to measure your success? How do you know you've got to that point in the plan that you can move forward? Oh, project creep. Right. Again, maybe chiming with people who've been through the process. Resist project creep. People will see priority and get excited very quickly and say, oh, it's brilliant. We can do that. Can we do this now? Can we do that? Can we do this? Again, this is a bandwidth issue. Yes, you can, but let's do it in the future. Let's get the system working properly first and then go forward. Can we automate these 5 or 6 steps that we want to do? Can we get 9 button clicks down to 2 button clicks? Yes, probably, but let's concentrate on what we have to do. So you have to resist project creep. It's quite difficult because you don't want to rain on anyone's parade. You've got enthusiasm there, and you're trying to use that enthusiasm. But somebody at the back once told me, you throw enough money at stuff and time, everything's possible, more or less. So make sure that you're not sort of driven down. Take your eye off the ball effectively in going down that route. And then keep detailed records of everything. There's obviously a contract with the vendor, what you've both cordially agreed together, legal document, defining the scope. You've got your statement of requirements, great document to look back on. What was the answer to this question? Record your demos. Things are discussed in those demos that it's very hard to remember every single thing, but there are key points that you can go back to. You have things like this happening. Somebody in the organization, the customer, will say, you said it would do this. It doesn't do it. It's not working. And then Medatech, in our case, will say, well, it does work, but we didn't quite mean that. And it's normally in the sales process, not decrying salespeople here, but it's normally in the sales process, the pre-contract process, where things are said. People say, but you did say it would do this. Nobody's lied. Nobody's been disingenuous. The problem is, the person who's asking the question is framing that question in a very specific way, completely in their own heads, to do with their business and their particular scenario. The answer coming back from Medatech in that case would be, but the software will do that. Yes, it will do that. Without understanding the specifics of the question, because you're at a sales process. You haven't got into the nitty-gritty. And sometimes you have to go back to those conversations and say, this is what was said. And it's equally important internally as well. Think about the internal users of systems as being customers of the project team. There's lots of email traffic, there's lots of documentation. You've agreed things. You've said things to each other. If you can go back to a document and say, this is what was said, can we agree that, and let's move forward from there? You've solved the problem, or you've deflated the issue and you can move forward. But there will be challenges throughout that process. So, 5th lesson, have your plan and stick to it. Your plan, stick to it, okay? Let's go back to this. Between 55 and 75% of ERP implementations fail to meet their original business objectives. Gartner's consultant statistic, okay? So, fairly dependable. And if you look at the ERP, I guess you'd call it the ERP industry, those watchers of ERP systems, consultants and journals like ERP Focus and other things you may be familiar with, they generally say top 5 reasons why is lack of leadership buy-in. Yeah, we bought a system. Off you go. We're going to go and do this. Not really too interested. Off you go. Doesn't work. Not understanding that you're talking about changing people's working lives, potentially. Sometimes very significantly. So not investing enough in making sure people are looked after as you change the culture. Not putting enough effort in, time, not dedicating enough resource. Has to be done. It's a big upfront cost, but it will pay dividends later. Poor data, rubbish in, rubbish out, right? And poor planning. So my advice to you, if you want to maximize your chances of not being in that 55 to 75%, would be get expert help. You understand your businesses really well, hopefully. Doesn't mean you understand ERP. You might do, you might be fortunate, but unlikely. Support your people, really support your people throughout this whole process. Make sure your foundations are strong and you've got a great team. Get your data right as best as you can. And then execute your plan. Thanks for your attention. I hope you found that interesting. Hopefully some of you found it useful if you're at a certain stage in your journey. There you go, I'll use it twice. I'm around for the rest of the day, so I won't take Q&A now because I know everyone's dying to go through and eat. Seek me out if you want to ask me a question. I'll be delighted to try and help you, absolutely. If something occurs after the conference has ended, get in touch with Medatech. They know who I am. Boy, they know who I am. Yeah, sort of service calls are fantastic. And I'll get back to you and we'll have a chat. Okay? Thank you for your time.